Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. Yesterday I spoke about an idea that my friend had given me about why there's no additions to the Bible, no upgrades. And we looked in Revelations at the verse that said we're not to add to or take away from this book. And I thought, since today is Sunday, I would share another verse that addresses Sunday specifically. That's why I said yesterday, we can look and find virtually anything we need to question, an answer to, not a question to, but an answer to in this book, be it the Old Testament or the New Testament. And I've heard some people say, well, when Christ came and died on the cross, that canceled out the Old Testament. I don't believe that. This is one book. It's 66 books. It's the Bible. Like I said before, the Old Testament prophesies what's going to happen when Christ comes and all that, and it did. But it also tells us what to expect in life, and be it in the Old Testament or the New Testament, and it does that. But this morning I want to focus on, this is Sunday, and many of us make plans on Sunday that don't include going to church. But yet, Scripture tells us that we're to honor the Sabbath. In Exodus, the 20th chapter, starting in verse 7, verse 7 addresses an issue all on its own. It says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain." So we have to be careful about how we use the name of the Lord. Simple verse, very powerful though, and it answers the questions. Somebody said on the news, you never hear people insult Muslims religions, but yet Christianity, they're constantly going at us, and it in many different ways. But we're as a Christian, you get picked on, but it's something you learn to live with, because you're looking at the end game, and the end game is spending eternity in heaven with our Father. So if you're one that tends to use God's name in vain, you might want to try and change your language a little bit, because this verse tells us why. That's in Exodus verse 7, chapter 20, verse 7. But this morning I want to focus more on verse 8, 9, and 9, and it says this: "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you." And I don't know what that is. But anyway, we're not supposed to be working on Sunday, but our society has got it such that we work 7 days a week around the clock. And while I'm guilty of working on the Sabbath, it's just one of them, it's just the way society is. And do I like working on Sunday? No, I'd rather be at home in church, but I'm not. And so I do the best I can with what I can. And it's something that's always gnawed at me, having to drive a truck for a living, and you pretty much work 7 days a week around the clock. The last 4 or 5 days, I've been starting it right around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and get done by noon, because I'm over here on the East Coast, and parking and traffic is such a booger that I don't like dealing with it, so I try to get done early. But think about that this morning as you get ready to make your plans for the day. What's a few hours in the morning going to church and sing praises to our King and worshiping Him, giving Him the honor that is due Him. We've got 6 days in the week to plan everything else out. Surely one day a week we can set aside and rest. I know I'll get done early today, and then I'll set the rest of the day. But then I'll get up at, like I said, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and take off again. But if you don't have any plans this morning, get a hold of a friend that you know that goes to church and go to church with them and start a new habit. I think they said it takes 30 days to form a habit. It's 4 Sundays. And see how your week goes if you start the week off in God's house, singing praises to the King and worshiping Him. I know the Sundays that I make at home, boy, do I cherish Sunday morning to get to go to church house and listen to a good message and fellowship with like believers. And it's a personal experience, but think about it. If you don't have any plans today, why not make today the first day from here on out where you spend Sunday in God's house?